Hey, welcome. Today we're digging into something I'm pretty sure you've felt before, that weird sense of déjà vu when you're watching a movie. We are talking about the secret life of movie tropes.
You know the feeling I'm talking about, right? You're watching a brand new movie, and suddenly there's a camera trick or a style of music that you have seen a million times. And for years, it just felt so tired, so cliché. But now, for some reason, it just works. It feels new, it feels fresh, maybe even cool.
Well, get this, that feeling isn't random at all. It's not just you. Turns out there's a hidden logic to how these movie devices live, die, and then get reborn. It's actually a predictable four-phase life cycle. And today, we're going to break it all down.
So here's the plan. First, we're going to redefine what a trope even is, calling it a technology of feeling. Then, we'll get into those four distinct phases. After that, we'll look at some awesome case studies to see this cycle in the wild. And finally, we'll unpack why we get such a kick out of it when an old trope makes a comeback.
Okay, let's jump right in with Section 1, a technology of feeling. This is all about looking past the idea of a trope as just some lazy, repetitive thing and really understanding what it's designed to do to us.
The key concept here is something called an affect technology. And I think that term is just fantastic because it completely reframes how we think about this. A trope isn't just a story element, it's a tool. It's a repeatable little machine that filmmakers use to push a specific emotional and even physical button inside of us. That's an affect technology.
And you can see these little machines at work everywhere. You know, a jump scare? That's not just a surprise. It's a technology designed to physically jolt your spine. Or that grainy shaky cam from a found footage movie? That creates a very specific feeling of raw uncertainty. A freeze frame at the end of a film literally pins an emotion right where it is, making it stick with you. And a synth score can just flood a scene with this incredible texture. They're all technologies of feeling.
So if these tropes are technologies, how do they change over time? Well, that brings us to their surprisingly predictable biography. This right here is the core of our whole explainer. The four phases that pretty much every major trope goes through.
So it all starts with novelty. The first time we see it, it's fresh, it's forceful, it hits you hard because you don't see it coming. But then comes phase 2, cliché. It gets used over and over, we see the gears turning, and that familiarity starts to feel, well, irritating. But it doesn't just die. Next is normalization. The trope gets so common, it's just absorbed into the language of movies like a comma or a period we don't even notice. And then the magic happens. Phase 4, revival. It comes back, but this time it's not a cliché. It's something different, something richer, loaded with historical texture.
And this quote just nails it. The trope returns with time folded into it. You see, when it comes back, it's not just the technique itself. It's the technique plus all of our collective memories of seeing it before. The good times, the bad times, the cheesy times. It carries its own history with it, and that's what gives it this incredible new power.
Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, but does it actually track with real movies? Let's dig into some case studies and watch these four phases play out with tropes we all know and, sometimes love, sometimes hate. This table maps it out perfectly. Just look at the freeze frame. It was this mind-blowing, shocking moment in the 400 blows. Then it became the ultimate cliché with that fist pump in The Breakfast Club. It was just normal scene setting in Goodfellas, and now it's back with this awesome nostalgic flavor. You see the exact same pattern for found footage, from the sheer terror of the Blair Witch Project to its clever revival in movies like Host. And it's the same story for jump scares and synth scores. The cycle is just remarkably consistent.
To really feel how this journey works, let's zoom in and trace just one of these tropes from start to finish. Let's talk about the synth score.
This line from Criterion just says it all, doesn't it? Once the sound of the future, now awesomely retro. It perfectly captures that transformation that happens in the fourth phase. The exact same sound can mean two completely opposite things to us depending on when we hear it.
And you can really see that shift right here. In 1971, in A Clockwork Orange, that synth sound was bizarre, artificial, almost alien. It was literally the sound of a scary tomorrow. But flash forward to 2011's Drive, you hear a similar sound, but it's not uncanny anymore, is it? It's warm, it's cool, it's soaked in the memory of every 80s movie, every vision of the future we used to have. The entire feeling is different.
So that brings us to our final section, the pleasure of the return. Okay, so this cycle exists, but why does it matter? What does it tell us about movies and about ourselves?
Because in that fourth phase, everything changes. A freeze frame is no longer a cheap trick, It's a cherished artistic signature. Found footage isn't a gimmick, it's nostalgia for the texture of old camcorders. A jump scare stops being lazy and becomes a moment where you can appreciate the director's craftsmanship. And that synth score, it's no longer just electronic noise, it's pure retro atmosphere.
So when a trope comes back around, it's never just a technique again. It's become a small archive, a little time capsule. It contains all our past reactions, our shock, our annoyance, our comfort. It literally carries our social memory inside of it, and that's what makes its return so incredibly satisfying.
And this, right here, is the biggest takeaway. This is when cinema truly shows itself as an affect technology. It doesn't just create feelings in the moment, it stores those feelings inside of forms, like a freeze frame or a synth score. And then, decades later, it can release those forms back to us, with all of that history, all of those past feelings still humming inside. It's just incredible. So I'll leave you with a question. For the next time you're sitting in a movie theater, keep your eyes peeled for those old, tired cliches, because one of them might just be waiting for its moment, waiting to ripen with a little bit of history, so it can become powerful all over again. What trope do you think will be the next to make its grand return?